Yeah! Live from the Home Depot parking lot. It's the RC Daily Bread. Revival Church. Okay, I got my Bibles over here. I'm getting it. And I have the camera on the opposite side today, so I'm looking over this way. It's because I'm used to looking over there. But that just gives you a face full of my seat, or my steering wheel. So we're in Genesis 22, verse 2 again. And we're going to get on to the second part of the verse, and maybe we'll even finish verse 2. I feel like chapter 22 is going to take us a little while to creep on through. And I'll say this, is that whatever little nuggets you get out of today, probably worthwhile just going back to this last Sunday, depending on when you watch this, and having a listen to Caleb Mortensen as he was in 2 Peter, kind of chapter 3, kind of chapter 1. And so, talking about the love of God. So, here in verse 2, God says to Abraham, now take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love. Now, this is the first occurrence of the word love in the Bible. Now, there's a rule that I think we've somewhat discussed as we've moved through. Really, back in chapter 20, verse 7, it's the first mention of the word prophet. As you move through the Bible, the first time a word is mentioned quite often has significance. There's something special about the first time a new word is introduced. And especially significant words, like this word here, love. Because what is the use of the first occurrence of the word love in the Bible? Well, it's that a father is being told to take his son and go sacrifice him. You see, there's a picture here with Abraham and with Isaac that Jesus was the beloved son. Matthew, Mark, Luke, this is my beloved son, in whom I'm already well pleased. That's a good thing too, is that God spoke of his love at the baptism of Jesus. Not after he died on Calvary, not after he did all these miracles, but even going into his ministry, he was loved of the Father, just like us. God loved us from the beginning, not after we did all these things for him, but he's always loved us with an eternal love. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. John 3:16. 1 John 3:16. In this we know love, right? That he laid down his life for us. And so that's what we see in this picture. But the picture goes deeper. Now, it says, go to the land of Moriah and offer him Allah to lift up, right? And as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I shall tell you. So, they're going to head to a place by the name of Moriah. Now, when they get there, what we're going to find is that there in Moriah, or on the Mount Moriah, is the city of Salem. We saw Salem earlier with Melchizedek. Now, Salem would later be called Jerusalem. But the city of Salem, or also known as the city of David, is actually what it's commonly called. It's much smaller than Jerusalem. David and with the Israelites, they expanded when it became their capital to a very large city. So today, the city of David, you can still go underground and see some of the remains of the city of David, of Salem. Now, Salem is on a mountain range, okay, which is Mount Moriah. You've got Zion on another side. You have the Mount of Olives on the other side. You have these three mountains, and you have valleys. Tyropian Valley, or the Cheesemakers Valley. You have Hinnom Valley going on the other side. Everything's backwards when I'm showing you guys, so I don't know if I can actually paint it out with my fingers quite right. Here's what it looks like And so this thing, no. But here's the point. Is if you go to the lookout area on top of the city of David, which if you ever get to go to Israel with me, I'll take you there. We'll go see it together. And it's a beautiful lookout area. And you'll find that you're not very far from the city walls or the temple walls. And you're not very far from the southern steps. I don't know, maybe with one of those Nerf footballs, little fins on the end. They don't have those anymore, I don't know. But back when I was a kid, those things, you could throw those things far. Maybe you could get pretty close to the temple with one of those. It is the belief of the Jews that Abraham was going to take Isaac up to sacrifice him there on the Temple Mount. And that actually where the temple sits is where Abraham was going to sacrifice Isaac. And it could be true. But I have a different theory. And it's a theory that's pretty well held with others, is that you see, if you walk on that mountain ridge, you get to the Temple Mount. But from there, if you go just a little further, you'll see that the mountain range actually climbs a bit more. What's funny is on an old map, it's not up to date now, but back before all the modern construction and modern development of the city of Jerusalem had taken place, just a little higher at the elevation of 777 meters, do with that what you want, is another peak, which would be the highest peak on Mount Moriah. That's the mountain, or the hill upon the hill, that we would call Calvary. And so Golgotha, the hill of the skull, that's the highest place on the ridge. And again, grab a topographical map of Jerusalem and you'll see it to be true. That you see the peak of the Temple Mount with a very slight dip and then another hill just further up. And so as we read further here, we're going to see in this picture of love that Abraham is going to be told to go to Mount Moriah, to the mountain which God's going to show him, so that Isaac will be offered up on a very specific place. And I believe it's the exact same place where one day God will offer up his son. And there's a whole lot more as we continue through this chapter. But just emphasizing the one main point. This is a picture of God's love, that he would sacrifice his son one day to come. Here he's asking Abraham, in faith, to offer up his son, his only begotten son, you'll note, is the way God words it. And I think it's not only, as we talked yesterday, because God doesn't recognize the work of the flesh, Ishmael, but also for the picture to work. God's big on his types. Remember, Moses didn't make it into the promised land because he smacked the rock for the second time, and God's like, the rock is a picture of Christ, and the rock was only supposed to be struck once. Abraham, I told you, you were supposed to have one son through Sarah, the only begotten son, and you had this other son, and you did, so again, kind of messing up some of God's types there. But the first occurrence of love, which always has a significance, is when a father went to sacrifice his son upon Calvary. That's what I got for you. So, cool facts. I want to say Easter. When we were in Genesis, I think we actually did this as like a Genesis Easter text. We were in Genesis, and I think we maybe had done this. But I know that I actually shared maps, and I showed pictures, and I had the topographical map, and I showed where everything laid out. So, somewhere in our archives, you can probably go back and find that video. But love you guys. Have an amazing day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.